Hello again, and welcome to our second lecture for our week 3 module on socialization. Once again, go ahead and grab your lecture quizzes. We will be coming right up here on question number 2. And in this video, we will be answering questions 2 and 3 at least. Okay. So, this week we are talking about socialization. If you remember last week, we talked about culture. And so, socialization is the process by which a society teaches its members about its culture and about its cultural values. So, all of us internalize all of the different aspects of our own cultures. We internalize the values, beliefs, and norms of our society and of our culture. And through that, we learn to be functioning members of our society. There's stuff that we just know about, the norms of our culture and the norms of our society. I mean, think about it. When you're in a classroom, you walk into a classroom, everybody knows what to do, right? Everybody knows that the students sit down in the desks and the teacher stands up in the front. And in a lot of classes, in most classes, the students raise their hand when they want to talk or ask a question. And the teacher generally writes on the board or has a PowerPoint presentation. There's stuff that just does not happen in class, like nobody's going to light up a cigarette in the middle of class. No one's going to start crying really hard about, losing their job in the middle of class. Like, this stuff just doesn't happen. And we know these rules. Like, we know it without even thinking about it. We have internalized it. And the way that this has happened is through a process that we call socialization. Now, there's always a question between what we have learned through socialization, which we call nurture, or what is biological to us, what has come to us biologically or through nature. This is called the nature-nurture debate. So, for example, if we were going to look at people's personalities, let's say we look at whether someone is funny. For instance, my brother, my youngest brother, is like the funniest person in our family. So the question is, was he born with that? Is that biological? Or did he learn to be that funny like that through socialization? There's no clear-cut answer to that. Sociologists lean towards nurture or environment, that we've learned, that my brother would have learned to be funny like that through socialization. Maybe there was a need for the youngest person in our family to lighten things up. And so he filled that role by being the funniest. But some people believe that you are born being funny. What else? Being good at math. Okay, that's another one. That's actually a big one I've learned with students. Being good at math. Is that nature or is that nurture? Is it something that you're born with? I was born not being good at math? Or is that you learned that through socialization? I can say from my own experience that I grew up believing that I was not good at math. And I hated math all through school, all through school, all through high school. But when I got to college, I finally got a really good tutor, and I found out that I was actually really good at math. So it wasn't something that I wasn't born that way. Somewhere along the way, I learned through whatever process that I wasn't good at math. Maybe a teacher wasn't encouraging. Maybe a parent wasn't encouraging. Or maybe I didn't try very hard a few times and got them all wrong, and then I just got it into my head that I wasn't good at math. So the question is this nature or is this nurture? And on the nurture side in sociology, we call that socialization. We learn to be these certain ways or to learn the norms of our society through socialization. So there is some scientific support for the crucial roles that genetics plays. We learn about these, like how would we know about the nature-nurture debate? How would we know that it is, is someone funny because they were born that way, or is someone funny through socialization? Like, how would we know about that? So scientists have discovered that one way that they can find out about the role that genetics plays in people's personalities and their professions and other aspects of their lives is by looking at by performing twin studies with identical monozygotic twins. So twins that share the same DNA, identical DNA. And twin studies looks at twins who share DNA, who have the same genetics, but were separated at birth and adopted by different families. So that way they can look at whether or not somebody was it came through their genetics, or did it come through socialization? Now, if let's say two twins were both born really funny, but they were raised in two totally different families, well, that would be sort of a point for the nature side, right? That maybe that means that nature has something to do with that. Some examples that have been found in twin studies, they found these two firefighters who had been separated at birth, and they both ended up, they were males, and they found them at 31, and they were both firefighters. So that sort of suggests that their interest in firefighting was possibly genetic. Another set of twins that they found, these were older women in their 60s. One lived in California and the other lived, I can't remember, somewhere on the East Coast, like North Carolina, where there are beaches. Both of these ladies were completely terrified of the ocean, and the only way that they could enter the ocean was by walking into the ocean backwards. So this suggests, that's very unusual behavior. And so this suggests that maybe this behavior was actually genetic, handed down genetically. So sociologists acknowledge the critical role that genetics plays, but believe that there's more to the story. Most sociologists would say that genetics lays the foundation of our human potential, but the extent to which we use or develop the traits or talents that we inherit has more to do with the environment than we're raised in and how it is learned through socialization. This is called the nature-nurture debate. And as I mentioned, there's much disagreement about how much of who we are comes about through genetics or through the process of socialization. So I just answered quiz question 2 on the nature-nurture debate. Most sociologists believe, it's the second one, that the environment and socialization, it's the third one, that genetics and the environment through socialization is responsible for personality differences such as intelligence. So it's the third one, because we don't believe, most sociologists don't believe, that the environment and socialization is totally responsible for our differences. We do feel genetics plays a role. Okay, moving along. So As you remember last time, we learned about values, beliefs, and social norms. Socialization is the process by which a person internalizes the values, beliefs, and norms of society and learns to function as a member of that society. If you remember the example that I gave you last week about standing in line at the grocery store, that it's different to stand in line at the grocery store here in California than it is in Long Island, New York, where I went to graduate school. The norms are different, even down to what we call the thing that we put our groceries in. Here in California, we call that our cart, or grocery cart. In New York, they call that their wagon. So this is an example of a social norm. These are just differences that we have culturally, and we learn them through socialization. As a matter of fact, we internalize them to such a deep degree that us hearing that in New York they call that thing a wagon sounds completely strange and weird to us, and makes no sense at all. So socialization is a very powerful process, and it helps us to function within our own societies. So we learn socialization through different people and different groups of people. These are called agents of socialization. So in every society, there are individuals, groups, and institutions for whose socialization of its new members is one of their primary functions. They provide explicit instruction in or modeling of social expectations. The most important agent of socialization is our family. It's where we have our first exposure to society's language and culture. So it's, in your family is really the first place that you start to learn, like, right from wrong. And we learn these lessons through intentional socialization and also unintentional socialization. So intentional would be like when your mom or your dad tell you, it's proper to say please when you want something. So they tell you, say please if you want that big ice cream cone. Unintentional learning right from wrong is when you drop a big glass of water on the floor and the glass shatters all over the place and your parent gets really mad at you and says, "What did you do?" So you learn, right? You learn that's not good. That's wrong. Even if it wasn't your parents' intention to tell you that. Schools are another important agent of socialization. And schools are actually institutions that are specifically designed for socialization. So we learn not only the regular curriculum, like what happens, math and English and science and social studies and all that. That curriculum is part of our culture, so learning it is part of socialization. But we also learn values and norms through what's called a hidden curriculum. And so some aspects of the hidden curriculum might be, for instance, when we say the Pledge of Allegiance. That's actually part of the real curriculum. But through doing the Pledge of Allegiance, we're also learning that it's the norm in our country to be patriotic and to show love for our country and for our flag. Another example is lining up, like you line up to go to the into the classroom or into the cafeteria. And lining up is part of the formal curriculum, but through it you learn all sorts of things like obedience. Okay, so I see we're running out of time. I'm going to answer question 3 on my next video. So I've only answered question 2 so far. Okay, see you on my next video. I only have 15 minutes for each one. Thanks.